Okay, this week we've had focus on science and maths. We first of all began with the respiratory system. Could you point out what some of the things that are labelled on the diagram so we know what the respiratory system is made from?
The mouth and the nose.
And what part do the mouth and nose play in respiratory system?
They play about the respiration. They take air and they get air.
So they give out air and they take in air.
Yes.
So both the mouth and the nose help us bring air into our bodies. Where does the air go from there then?
It goes to the pharynx.
The pharynx, good. And the
larynx.
Good. And then from the larynx and the pharynx, where does the air go to?
The trachea.
Trachea, good.
Trachea.
And then Judy would like to take over. Where does the air go from there? From the mouth?
Bronchium.
First of all, it goes into the, what do we call the organ?
Bronchium.
What do we call the main organ that the air goes
the
into?
lungs.
The lungs. So it goes into the lungs, and then from into the lungs it goes into
The bronchium.
the bronchi, and then it feeds into the bronchioli, and then there's small little sacs at the end are called alveoli. Okay, can you name me a virus that people can get that can in their lungs that can stop them from breathing as well?
The bronchitis.
Bronchitis, and also you can get asthma. And if they get breathing problems, obviously they need to see the doctor. What else is there in the diagram that we mentioned?
The diaphragm.
The diaphragm. And what career do people have that they use their diaphragm? They have to use their diaphragm very well.
The singers, swimmers, and people that play instruments.
Okay, because without using the diaphragm very well, they can't play the instruments very well because they have to hold their breath for longer, and so it pushes their lungs down and pushes the diaphragm. It contracts the diaphragm, pushes it down. Okay, so from looking at the respiratory system, we also looked at, could you explain what this is? It's called the different atmospheres. Okay, so we looked at the Earth's atmospheres. Could you explain a little bit about the atmospheres?
Yeah, there is the outer space that is in the top, the mesosphere,
The mesosphere,
the stratosphere, the ozone layer that is a layer that protects all the sun rays, but now it is melting, and the troposphere that is when all the elephants and trees are.
it's where our sky is, so we can we live within the troposphere.
Yes.
Okay. What could you add from this, what you've learnt about this?
That the layers of the sun, they go down.
So the rays of the sun.
They go down. The mesosphere, the stratosphere, and the ozone layer, and they stay here because it is safe, because then it's not so hot, the earth.
So the ozone layer protects the
Yes.
Earth by preventing it from getting too hot.
Yes, but because the sun combination is going down, and then some layers they go past, and they go to the troposphere, that is where the elephants and clouds, so then sometimes the earth is really hot.
So the problems are that we are beginning to have a bigger hole in the ozone layer, which means that most of the sun's rays can get through now to the Earth.
Yes.
So we have to be very careful in our futures to make sure that we protect the ozone layer. Does any of you know how we could do things to protect the ozone layer?
We could stop making so much contamination.
Well, pollution, yeah. So not so much air pollution is one of the main ways to help the ozone layer. Good answer. Okay, what did you do in maths this week?
In math, then we done the coordinations.
Okay, so you looked at coordinations. Can you explain a little bit about what you learned about coordinations?
We learn how to write the shapes with coordinations. Like if you got 5, 2, you will get from the 2 from here and the 5. So then
It's the other way around. So you'd look at 5 on the x-axis, and then you'd look at 2. You remember what the lines were called?
Yeah, the X and the Y.
And do you remember what they're both called, the X and the Y lines? What's their proper name?
I don't know.
Axes, okay?
Axes.
So it's a Latin word, axes. And we learnt that you have to use the x-axis before you use the y-axis, okay?
Yeah.
So we said that, as Judith pointed out, that if you had the coordinate 2, 3, you'd look at the x-axis for 2, and then you'd go up on the y-axis and you'd plot your point.
Yeah.
Okay? And we discovered that a lot of the coordinates that we were given showed us some shapes. Did you work out what some of the shapes were?
Yeah, a kite, a square, a triangle,
And you had a pentagon, and you had a triangle, a square, rectangle as well. Okay, then in other work in maths, what did you do? So we'll have a look at Sarah's first. What did you do? You had
solving problems.
and what did you use with solving problems?
We use plus, adding, take away, fractions, division, timetable, and other skills that they work time clock. Money.
Okay, so what was the most important thing you had to do before you solved these problems?
Take a think, read.
You had to read, then you had to think about what the question asked you.
Yes.
And then you had to think about what the operation was to solve the problem.
Yes.
Okay, so the first question you had was, for instance, at an ice rink there are 148 people on the ice, 67 people go onto the ice, how many are there now? So that you had to add.
Yes.
Yeah? So you had to work out what operation to use, and sometimes you had to use more than one.
Yes.
Yeah? So you had to try and see if you could work out the problem and read it back to check if you've made the correct answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Judith, what did you do in your book? Maths.
The mixed problems.
So you had mixed problems, and what did you discover when you did mixed problems? What skills did you have to use?
The ones that we learned with you.
Okay, so the weeks that you've had me teach you, you've learned all these different math skills. Could you highlight what some of those skills were that you've learned separately in maths?
The area, perimeter, volume, the time, the coordination, the money.
Yeah, and you had to learn about distance with measurement. So you used all of these, and this really was a sort of check on how well you could use all of those ideas put together.
Yeah.
So what did you have to do before you actually solved these problems?
We had to read, find the operation that we had to do the operation, and write the answer.
And then you had to, importantly, check at the end if you had the answer correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and some of that was you did it well, but you just needed to make sure you read back through the question to make sure your answer matched with the question. Okay?
And then we done some coordinates that it was the Y line and the X one.
Okay, so the proper name for these lines are called axes, yeah?
Yes.
So you had to write down what the coordinates were for each of the corners. Okay? And the corners we call vertices as well.
Yes.
And how did you do this?
We done this point, it was 2, 1. Because this line goes 1 and this one goes 2.
And we use brackets to show that it's one coordinate.
Yes.
Okay? So we did
So
that.
then you went doing this and then you draw the shape.
Okay. And then you had coordinates
Yes.
where you had to then draw the shape.
Yes.
So did you work out what this one was?
Yes.
Well, it's got 3 coordinates. What shape was it?
It was a triangle.
And this one has got 4 coordinates. Did you work out what that one was?
A square.
Very good. Yeah, well done.
And the coordinations, here we had to practice them.
Okay, so you wrote down what the shapes were. Did you work out what 5 was in the end?
The 5, yeah, it was the kite.
It was the kite. And the last one, it was a pentagram because it had 5 corners, 5 vertices. Okay. And anything else you want to share with me? Okay.
Then we had to do a chart of inhalation and exhalation.
So we learnt what the difference was between inhale and exhale. What's the
Yeah.
difference?
The inhale is when you get the air in,
When
and
you breathe in.
the exhalation is when you breathe out.
Okay, so we worked out that these sentences should go in the correct places. So could you tell me a little bit what comes under inhalation? What happens to your lungs and your rib cage when you inhale?
The rib cage goes up and out is in inhalation.
Inhalation, yeah.
And the exhalation, the diaphragm relaxes and goes up.
So the diaphragm relaxes and goes up. Okay, when you exhale. And when you inhale, what happens to the diaphragm?
It goes up.
It gets tighter, it contracts, and it goes down because your lungs are pushing it down for more space. And then what happens when you breathe in? What happens to your lungs? Like a balloon, it
like goes little, and then
your lungs don't grow little, they grow bigger. This word means inflate, like a balloon. You inflate, you blow more air into it, okay? And then when you breathe out, your lungs deflate. Yeah, they get smaller. Well done. And this one? This one?
Tan.
Now look at the sound.
Han.
Has, good. This one. This next one.
As.
Look at the sound first.
Si.
It's got a s in it. What does it start with?
In.
I.
In.
Is good. Now the last one. What's the first sound? Get. As in, you've used this in a sentence. Go and get the computer, or go and get the book. Sound the sounds first.
Here are some of the sounds you will hear in this book.
You're going to say
Click
the sound.
the speaker to hear each one.
Okay.
I.
This one is I.
I.
Okay. D. Okay. And good.
Thanks! Let's go back to the book.
Okay. Let's see if we can read a little bit. Right, so can you read the first word for me?
Yes, Sarah.
Never mind, Sarah. Let's do this.
That.
Dad. Does it begin with this? No, what does it begin with?
Nap.
Naps, good. Which means he's sleeping, yeah? It means he's sleeping,
Sleep.
yeah? And Tim sits. Look. Geordie. Tim sits. He's looking very bored and tired. Read this next one for me. What does it start with? Sound. Yeah. T.
Tip.
What's that sound? T.
Tim.
Tim.
Sleep.
What's that sound?
Tip.
Taps.
Taps. Tap. Pap. Tap. Pap.
What's this sound? P.
Pap.
A.
T.
Pat.
Pat.
Pats.
Pats. Pats.
This word.
Pats.
What's this word that the arrow is pointing to?
A.
What's this sound? T.
Ta.
Yeah. E.
In.
Tin.
Tim.
Tim. Say it after me. Tim.
Is.
Pats. Tin. Okay. Tim taps a tin.
Tim.
Look. What's happening to Dad?
Wake.
He's waking up. He's waking up on his own, or what's waking him up?
In noise.
The noise. Who's making the noise?
Him.
Who's him? What's his name?
Tim.
Tim. Tim is making the noise. Okay. What's this word? What does it begin with?
Done.
Da.
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 What's that sound? Da. Dad.
Dad. Il.
You.
Is. Man.
Ma.
Mat.
Mad. Dad is mad. He's cross. Why is he mad? What happened?
Funny noise.
He can't stand the noise. Right. He says, "It is a din." It's too noisy. He cannot sleep. Is he angry? Is he cross?
Yeah.
Yes, because he was sleeping and he now woke up. Now, last page.
That.
Dad.
Feet.
What's the first sound?
Ah.
What's the first sound?
Ha.
No, it's not ha. No.
At.
Nah.
Nap.
Naps.
Nap. Tim.
Tim.
Nap.
Naps. And
Sip.
sa.
Sap.
Sa.
Sat.
Sa.
Sam.
Sam.
Tap.
Taps. So who's making the noise now?
Again him.
What's his name? What's his name? How do I say his name? Sam. 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 There's Sam. Look, he's making a noise. Who's sleeping?
Him.
Who's he?
It. Dad.
There's Dad. What's his name again? What's the name of this monkey again? I remember. Begins with T.
Tip.
Tim. That's Tim. There's Dad. There's Tim. They're both sleeping now, maybe because they were too busy arguing. Dad telling Tim off for making a noise. Now Sam's making noise. Okay, so that's the story of Tim's din. Okay, last quiz.
What does the picture show?
What's the
Click
picture?
on your answer.
What's this called?
Tap.
No, not a tap. What's it called?
Can.
It could be a can, but what's another name for it?
Tam.
A tin.
Tip.
Tin.
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 So which word is tin?
That one.
So what's this word say?
Tin.
Ti.
Tip.
What's the last sound? Ti.
Tip.
Tip. We need tin.
Tip. That one.
Which one?
On the one.
This one?
Yeah.
Middle one?
Yeah.
Right, so let's sound it out just in case.
Tin.
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 Right, last one says
Si.
sat.
Sat.
Sat. Okay, so
No.
you middle one?
Yeah.
Well done. Let's go back to the book.
There you go. Well done, Geordie.